on the West Coast. We are going to record this, as you can see. Welcome to the Coalition's Energy Sustainability Program. This is an exciting day for the Coalition. This sustainability program has been a long time in coming. We're extremely excited to bring this to you, our members' institutions. A few housekeeping items before we get started. If you have questions during the webinar, we ask that you ask those via chat. We'll monitor the chat, and if appropriate, we'll stop the webinar and answer the question right at that time. If more appropriate to wait to the end, we'll wait to the end, answer the question in the Q&A session that will be at the end of the presentation. Also, I want to make everyone aware that this program, as well as other programs from the Coalition, are available to you due to your membership with the state association. So because you're a member of your state association, all the programs of the Coalition come to you, as well as this energy sustainability program, come to you free of charge. So more value from your state association. With that, let's look at the agenda for today. First, we're going to look at a little background. Why are we developing this program? And where did it come from? We'll do some team introductions. We'll look at, of course, the program itself, and you'll hear from the experts. You won't hear from me. We'll look at a launch grant. We've got several launch grants available to you all, courtesy of First American Education Finance. And then at the end, like I said, we will go to a question and answer segment, and we'll look at the program resources that are available through the program. With that, first, let me just introduce my team members that are on the call today. Of course, my name is Lyon Cruz. I'm the president of the Coalition for College Cost Savings. We also have Chad Wiedenhofer, Executive Vice President, First American Education Finance, John Philippe Druin from Ecosystem, and Bill Vinicombe from Solar Financing Solutions. More to come from them later, but I wanted to make sure that you all had that introduction. We'd like to start the webinar with actually a polling question so that we can gauge the attendees where you are on your progress toward your goal of sustainability. So if you would answer this question, we'd appreciate it. So how far along is your campus in meeting its decarbonization and climate resiliency goals? We'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that question. And then we'll take a look at the results. All right. Well, it looks like we have very few that have actually met their goals. We have some that have about a quarter of you have no goals. We can work on that. But the majority of you have goals, but either are not close to meeting them, or still have some work to do on. That helps us, and that informs us for the rest of the webinar. Thank you very much. We'll move on from that polling question to the background of this program. So why is the Coalition bringing this program to you all? Well, if you understand the mission of the Coalition is to bring programs that either reduce cost or improve the efficiencies for our members' institutions. And in doing that, we employ a strategy of looking at the high dollar item expenditures on all your campuses. Well, energy obviously is one of those high dollar value line items in your budget, and usually it's one of the top 5. So back in 2017, actually, so we've been working on this for quite a while. In 2017, we started looking to see what we could do in the energy purchasing and cost reduction area. We concentrated on energy purchasing and found that the more ESCOs we talked to, energy service companies we talked to, the more we realized that concentrating just on purchasing although important, was not the biggest bang for your buck. In other words, we found that that purchasing along with the efficient use of energy, and even more so, the appropriate use of the right type of energy, if you put that all together in a comprehensive strategy, then we could provide great value to our members' institutions. So that's what we've been working on for the past, what's it been now, 6 years. Trying to put that together, trying to make sure that we brought the best of vendor partners and the best product to you that we could. So as I said, I talked to many ESCOs out there. I talked to a number of them, and what I found was most of them had a cookie cutter approach. You had to fit within their cookie cutter approach, whether they wanted to put solar on your campus or geothermal on your campus. If you fit into their approach, then you were fine. But we all know that our campuses, our 1,000 across the nation, our 1,000 campuses across the nation are just not all homogeneous. You all are individuals. You have specific needs and specific goals on each campus. So I started looking for a vendor that was more flexible, a vendor that had your best interest at heart. And unfortunately, I didn't find one in the ESCOs, but I did find one when I started talking to First American Education Finance about what I was looking for in this program and what they could do. They actually had been doing a few projects before we started talking. They brought some things to the table. We brought some things to the table. And I realized that a financing company actually has exactly, their priorities are exactly in tune and in line with a campus's priorities. Think of it. The financing company wants the college to hit all their assumptions. They want the project to be extremely successful. They want everything to go just the way the college campus wants it to end, because they want to get paid in the end. So the priorities are aligned perfectly. And as Chad Wiedenhofer and I started talking more and more about this over the past few years, we just learned that there was a very good relationship, and that they were the vendor partner for me to bring on to do this Coalition ESP. Now, I will, at this point, I'll turn it over actually to Chad and ask him to reflect on the history of what we've talked about and his perception of the program.
Yeah, thanks, Lyon. So, our position as, a financing company, a part of a bank, gave us, I think, a unique perspective on work that we've done to finance energy projects, whether it's infrastructure or energy efficiency, in a true independent sense, right? We were just the capital supporting those projects. And I think as Lyon and I started our discussions, it was a great starting point to kind of identify, through that independent work, which companies were we familiar with that we had financed projects with that had really good outcomes, not just from a technical perspective in those outcomes, but also just from an independence and alignment to the institution and kind of longer term objectives. And so that was the starting point for a short list of companies that were evaluated, and you'll hear more about the companies that we identified. But once we did that, we started with 5 state associations to kind of pilot this concept and get feedback, from those coalition members. What are the challenges that they most commonly see in this area? As highlighted by, a number of statistics, and some are highlighted here, this is a very important topic to a lot of institutions. It's an area of deep importance for presidents and, boards and campus community and stakeholders alike, prospective students, really across the board. This is an important topic. And we wanted to think about how, in partnership with the coalition, we could assemble, a unique set of resources and technical expertise to support members in this endeavor. And so in those conversations, as it emerged to us, there were a handful of challenges that we really wanted to focus on. And before we highlight those, we wanted to just take a quick second and hear from you in terms of how you think about your own challenges at your institution. So here's our second polling question that highlights which of these obstacles is really the greatest hindrance to your sustainability or resiliency goals on your campus. Give everyone a second to respond to that. Great. So not surprising, kind of the overwhelming response is capital. And, I think that's consistent with the observations in the pilot program and a lot of the conversations that we have. All of your institutions have a number of competing priorities that all demand investment in capital. And it's really hard to prioritize, all of them, the way that you would like, I'm sure. So as we look at, the next slide here, you'll see kind of the outcome, not surprising and very consistent with the poll responses. These were the key areas that, we got feedback on in terms of what member schools really needed help and support with as it relates to investment in sustainability initiatives. Capital being the biggest one, again, competing priorities, how can we unlock the opportunity to invest more and make more progress in these areas? Really around, I would say, kind of a technical expertise and resources, both maybe internally and externally, in terms of the partners that we turn to and trust, to help us align kind of our own mission and goals and commitments. And then, there's a lot of things constantly moving as it relates to this topic. You have legislative changes, with the Inflation Reduction Act. You've got all these opportunities, for information and data to change, to help inform better decisions. And so that's a real area of opportunity for institutions to have outlets to make better, more informed decisions and gather that information. So these were really the three areas in terms of the feedback that we received over the last 18 months or so as we've piloted this. And I wanted it to set the context as we kind of roll out the program. The real key elements that we were focused on. And so we hope with what you'll hear today as it relates to this program, that these are the primary objectives or goals that we've set out as we look to launch this here today. And that is, a real alignment to each individual campus's long-term sustainability, or decarbonization related goals. The opportunity, as Lion mentioned, the operating expense line item, for energy is a big one. And there's oftentimes lots of opportunities to reduce operating expenses as it relates to investment in these areas. And that can be a source, of opportunity. The importance of resiliency, across the country. Resiliency is a common theme as it relates to infrastructure investment and maintaining resiliency of key campus infrastructure or research infrastructure, all those important elements. The topic of deferred maintenance, that's another component, that's important to this program. Oftentimes with investment in some of the infrastructure, that's related to this, there's opportunities to, at the same time, address, some of the deferred maintenance challenges that I think all campuses share, just as it relates to the aged infrastructure, the need for investment in deferred maintenance, and again, the challenge of prioritizing that. So that's another kind of key element to this. And then just more broadly, other campus objectives as it relates to alignment with the broader campus community and stakeholders. That's another element that, as we've gathered feedback, presents itself as an opportunity for this program. So with that, we wanted to just quickly introduce, as you look at the team that's been assembled here, and I'll just highlight, again, we kind of played a unique role as a financial institution, but I would submit have a very unique perspective. Over the last decade, we've financed dozens and dozens of energy-related or sustainability-related projects, everything from, central plants and key campus infrastructure. Sorry, if you could please mute, thank you very much. Key campus infrastructure to energy efficiency, renewables, we have experience with all projects, across the spectrum. And we've been able to work independently as a capital provider with those schools and see the outcomes, and see, which projects from our independent perspective performed really well. And who are those partners that seem to have that independent, alignment, to the institution. So there's kind of four key areas that, as we think about the resources that we wanted to assemble, and if you could go back one slide there, Lauren. Yeah, these four areas would be, the importance of collaboration to reduce costs. That's central to the coalition's mission. We feel that there's an opportunity in this area to do that effectively. the importance of independent oversight and management of these programs. And we've got a partner that, is excellent in that role and has played that role very effectively in the past. The importance of capital, which we touched on, and the role that First American can play there to provide the right, innovative, effective capital solutions to support investment. And then last but certainly not least, the importance of independent technical partners that are focused, primarily in an engineering discipline, have an independence and an alignment to, the long-term objectives, and not affiliated with any specific technology, product or approach, really an engineering first focus. Those are the four key elements that we thought were central to assembling the right team with this program based on the feedback. So with that, here are those organizations. Obviously, the Coalition Solar Financing Solutions is a partner that First American and City National Bank has worked with for a long time as a consultative resource with deep expertise in all things energy and infrastructure related. But again, that independence kind of in their role was really important as we thought about the program management and oversight of this. Someone who has a technical knowledge and expertise, but again, kind of unbiased, neutral, independent. First American, a part of RBC and City National Bank. So those two institutions have deep commitments around sustainability and sustainable finance. RBC has a $500 billion commitment by 2025. It's really important to those financial institutions to support investment in these areas. And certainly that flows through to First American and is important to us. And then ecosystem is the technical partner that First American has had experience with working on projects with great outcomes, and what I think the short list of companies that we identified and as those were vetted, again, the independence, the engineering first focus, and the alignment to a longer term, set of goals and objectives is what ultimately led us to choose ecosystems as the right technical partner for this program. With that, I will turn it over to JP, who can give you a further quick introduction to ecosystem.
Thank you, Chad. Hi, everyone. I'm JP Drew, and I'm with Ecosystem. I'm an engineer with the company. I've been with the company for over 15 years, and we're really excited at Ecosystem to be to partnering with the Coalition to offer you this program. So in a nutshell, Ecosystem, we're a firm that's been specializing in energy and decarbonization projects for over 30 years in higher education, especially in North America. Our strength is not financial. We'll leave that to Chad and First American. As stated, our strength is really technical in designing and implementing projects, and our ability to guide institutions or our partners through all the planning process and to become really trusted advisors. So we're currently involved with a number of institutions in various parts of the country, both large and small, and typically through partnerships that last for years. And at the core, we're an engineering firm, but we believe in making everything more efficient. Of course, energy efficiency itself, but also in projects that are cost efficient, and also developing efficient ways to collaborate with our partners. And we also strongly believe that engineering firms should be held more accountable for their work and with the outcomes of their work, so cost and performance, which is why we've developed this process and this internal expertise that was needed to allow us to serve our clients in a way that we can offer planning, engineering, as well as turnkey construction of projects. And we strongly believe in that approach, that it gives the most innovative and cost-effective solutions for our clients. So that's in a nutshell about Ecosystem. I'll pass it over to Bill at Solar Financing. Bill's a great collaborator, and over to you, Bill.
Bill, are you on mute? Oh, we might have lost Bill. I can speak to Solar Financing Solutions. Like I mentioned, this is a consultant that we've worked with at the bank and at First American for almost a decade now. And again, the importance in their role is they have deep experience in overseeing, programmatic, financing relationships through, various experience with high technology related firms. They have deep experience in renewables, and really from a technical perspective, have a deep understanding of evolving technologies and how the industry is progressing. And so from a program management standpoint, a great partner that we identified to play this important role. And then as it relates to First American, I've kind of introduced, we have a deep expertise in education. We work with over 800 schools across the country. We're a part of RBC and City National Bank. So, deep financial strength just in terms of our capabilities on the capital side. I mentioned that this area is of deep focus to RBC and City National. But the other piece, is the flexibility and kind of the specialty that we have within this space specifically to really customize, our approach and whatever's required for a related financing for a project. And we'll talk more about that later. But the capital piece and being innovative, is a really important element of this. So with that introduction, now I'll turn it back to JP to talk more specifically about the energy sustainability program in greater detail. So JP, over to you.
Thank you, Chad. So again, we're really excited to bring this program to members of the coalition. So the program approach, we present this three-step approach, although we understand that every one of you may be at a different stage and in the process of defining and achieving your goal, energy and sustainability goals. But this program is not cookie cutter. Not everyone fits in the same mold, but this shows how we might approach a school that either hasn't started or is very early in their process. So first, we would start with a campus level, more holistic, strategic assessment that's meant to provide alignment for decision makers on where to direct efforts next. Number two, with more, back one slide, Lauren, please. Thank you. Number two, with more project-oriented assessment or more detailed study, engineering focused, and finally with financing and implementation of the project. So, and today we'll explore more of the number one in details, but before we do that, we wanted to ask you a question. What is your primary objective in approaching with respect to the program? Is it cost reduction, deferred maintenance, carbon reduction, or other energy and sustainability? I'll leave you a second to give an answer. So it's fairly well balanced. There's a little bit of everything, and that's what it's a great segue into the next part of the program, which is to here this slide puts attempts to describe all the important goals that this program could help address. We like to break them into those four quadrants: energy and sustainability, infrastructure, mission, relevance, and financial. And we always start with the focus is always reducing energy cost and use, and that's closely related to that is measures that help reduce the cost and operation and maintain the energy infrastructure. And of course, nowadays, sustainability and reducing GHG emissions are very important goals. So looking for solutions that reduce GHG emissions are often interlocked with energy cost reduction. Then bottom right, deferred maintenance, capital projects. Schools have, you already have a lot of those needs, and those are really important capital projects, and that's where this program can become really holistic when we can find solutions that not only address CapEx that's already committed and funded, but also cut energy and GHG emissions at the same time. That's when it really starts to be interesting, and those projects often become prioritized. So that's often the goal of this program. We'll try to identify those projects. And then, sorry, Lauren, back one slide again. So mission relevance, we want to define projects that provide great visibility to the school and maximize the long-term value. And of course, finally, the program can extend to other goals that may be more peripheral, but sometimes are very high on the list for certain colleges, like finding solutions that increase resiliency, improving comfort, bring positive visibility and alliances opportunities. So that's next slide, please. So that's how the program can help in a nutshell. It's the goal is to find and implement solutions to the problems identified on the previous slide. And again, we can meet each school where you are. The program is meant to be very holistic. We're there to help you develop, implement, and track performance of strong energy and sustainability programs that are customized to your needs. And that includes preparing and planning work, as well as implementation. And it can also extend to helping you adopt some new tools like life cycle cost analysis tools, or launching some community initiatives to engage your community. Now, I'd like to dive a little bit more in the strategic assessment, which was the first part of the program. If we go to the next slide, we want to ask you if you have been through some sort of strategic or planning exercise recently with respect to your energy and sustainability goals over the past 5 years. We'll give you a moment to answer that. Good. So whether you have been through or not, this first step may be interesting for you, either to do a refresh or to start with really from ground zero. So next slide, please. So the strategic assessment, we really want to, the goal is to help stakeholders develop a strategic vision of their campus. We want to gather stakeholders in the same room. So we were doing one recently with a school, and we were with the CFO, the facilities, finance, of course, and planning and engineering, and so. The goal is really to address all the goals that are important to them, and then to help them identify their own goals, and then identify some potential strategies that could help to address those goals, and finally identify some actionable next steps. Next slide, please. Of course, there is some amount of education that through the process we'll want to do some of it for executive stakeholders that may not be familiar with the world of energy and sustainability. So for instance, what is carbon neutrality, or how disruptive can a campus steam to hot water conversion represent? So there's a certain amount of education that goes through that process. Next slide. And in the strategic assessment, we follow really those 4 steps. So the first step is really about gathering the group of stakeholders together, and with them identify what are the most important goals. Then we would do a brief assessment of the campus at a macro level and issue diagnostic benchmarking to allow you to understand where you stand with respect to your peers on important energy and sustainability metrics. We'll give a few examples of that in a minute. And finally, identify with you potential strategies that might help you and reach your goals. And number 4, help determine which strategy or strategies are more worth pursuing next or exploring, and what should be the exact next step. So, for instance, this is an example that we recently did. These 5 goals that are highlighted were the ones selected by a school that we did this process with, and of course it will be different for every individual school. Next slide, please. So once the goals are identified, then the second part is where we do some diagnostic and benchmarking. So we'll be able to show you where your school stands with respect to others on important energy metrics such as energy use intensity. Next slide. It's always interesting to, as part of the diagnostic, to see at a macro level where energy is flowing on your campus. So with basic energy data, we can generate some nice graphs that help highlight where the energy is flowing and how much losses. Sometimes it's impressive how much energy is being lost through your existing energy equipment. So we'll provide that as well. And finally, if you have metered data on your building, of your buildings, like the energy they consume, we will help generate some graphs that show not only what buildings are the most energy intensive, but also quickly estimate their potential for energy reduction, not by walking through the buildings and doing deep analysis yet, but with more of a data-driven approach and comparing your building portfolio with our database of past energy reduction projects that we've actually implemented and tracked performance on. And so this can give you a really quick and valuable snapshot of the potential for energy reduction. So this is all part of the strategic assessment. And once that we have identified the most important goals and have a clear understanding of your energy infrastructure, then we can start to identify some strategies with you, such as reducing wasted energy, upgrading your district system, renewing your central plant, improving resiliency, looking at ways to decarbonize heating and reducing on-site combustion, and then looking at renewable power or carbon offsets. So depending on what goals have been prioritized in the first step, then we can start to look at those strategies, list them, and then do a qualitative analysis of each strategy so that you and your stakeholders better understand what are the benefits and risks associated with each strategy, be able to rank them from most expensive capex wise, as well as their impact on operating costs, compare them to your goals, and identify some potential next steps to explore further each strategy. So that process will help you and your team to prioritize which strategies should be pursued next, understanding the impact that they have relative to each other, and also how they interact and which strategies should be combined together and have a better fit together than others. And this will help you set a direction to reach your goal. You may not have yet a clear and final roadmap by the end of the strategic assessment, but certainly that will provide a lot of the ingredients for that, and you'll have a lot better clarity on where to go next. And this 1 to 6 graph was showing how strategies could be mapped over time, eventually with respect to phasing and scale. So this process of the strategic assessment, we're looking at a handful of meetings for you to provide some energy data and sustainability data, who would be involved would be your, the stakeholders that you would feel would be most relevant for this. Usually we recommend finance, facilities, planning, and faculty. Also, sustainability groups can be a good idea to involve them at this stage. Depending on the campus size, a 2 to 4 month is usually to be expected. So it's really what we wanted to describe today, the strategic assessment. Again, number 2, the project oriented, is really meant to bridge the gap between this high level strategic assessment of your campus and project implementation for whatever more detailed studies or assessments would be required before pursuing a specific project. And next slide, please. Okay, and now I'll pass it over to Chad to talk about the capital plan.
Thanks, JP. So yeah, the capital piece is obviously a really important part of this, as we've identified here today. And part of First American's role is prioritizing investment in these various initiatives. And part of what we've committed is a specific designation for sustainable finance projects, which with that designation, and this is consistent with our parent banks. With that, there's a qualifying element that allows us to have more flexibility around terms and structure. So a sustainable finance designation will potentially, allow us to stretch a term out, farther than we might otherwise if it was not designated as sustainable finance project. So an enhancement, in terms of terms, in terms of rates, the ability to provide various forms of financing based on the need of a given project. Whether that's, the tax credit considerations, for a non-for-profit, and how do we monetize those if they're available. That there's various approaches that are available to us, as a result of this, and that overall hopefully unlocks more capital for investment in these initiatives. Qualifying projects would really be anything designated as a carbon reducing project, energy efficiency, renewables, clean transportation. All those would qualify. The importance here is that we feel, First American, as an independent capital provider, provides a really attractive option to schools. It's agnostic, as it relates to technology and approach, and it's really aligned with the long-term interests and goals of the institution in terms of the types and form of financing. It also, is very common for us with these projects to include deferred maintenance related elements as well. And again, as we've discussed, that would be an opportunity that we'd also be looking for with this program to address that where we can. So this is one element, just the overall commitment. The second element is First American's commitment to fund 5 launch grants for the strategic assessment that you've heard today. And again, the opportunity here is that first strategic assessment gives schools, as JP mentioned, kind of the ingredients to the roadmap. Helps them provide data and information to make more informed decisions based on those goals. And again, as we've discussed kind of the opportunities with this program, that was a real priority for us. And, this is something that, we were able to budget and commit to support this year at launch. We hope to continue to support it in the future. But the 5 grants that will be made available will cover the cost of the strategic assessment in full. And so it's available, to any coalition member that's interested in the strategic assessment, and whether that's, for the half of you that responded that you haven't had one in the last 5 years, or the other half that said you've done it in the last 5 years. If you're interested in an evaluation of that or updating that, that this is really a unique opportunity, to have this strategic assessment provided for you. So the application is live as of right now, and we'll get to kind of how you can access that. But live as of today, the application deadline is August 1st. So We hope everyone on this line, finds the value in this opportunity and takes the time to do it. It's a comprehensive application, but if you have the right, folks participating, which would be facilities, finance, and maybe folks that are involved in sustainability on your campus, I think we've targeted a 2 or 3 hour time commitment, to fill out that application. So deadline August 1st, and then 30 days, to evaluate the applications. And on September 1st, there will be an announcement of the launch grant awards to the 5 institutions. Just a little bit of detail around kind of the review process. So the applications will be reviewed by Ecosystems, First American, and SFS. It'll be a merit-based assessment of the responses. You'll see in the application, there's lots of open forum opportunities to differentiate your responses, as well as some very objective data-driven responses as well. So it's a mix of information that's required. And again, there'll be an announcement of recipients to be notified by September 1st. If your institution applies and does not, unfortunately, get an award of the grant, there's still through, and you'll hear more about this, in future information releases, there's still a lot of opportunity for schools to leverage the value of the strategic assessment offering from Ecosystems with the collaborative spirit from a cost perspective through the coalition. So whether it's the strategic assessment, whether it's you have projects that you have identified and need, either some technical support or capital support to get those projects moving again, this program is meant to be a resource available to all of the institutions to meet you where you are and help drive those efforts forward. So this is the web page. It's on the Coalition website. You'll see there's a link to the Energy Sustainability Program. We've tested this QR code, so it should work as well, but would take you to the landing page where you can fill out the grants application. And again, I hope all of you take the time to do that. And we're excited to support this. It's a big part of our mission at First American to help support schools. And this is an area that's important to us. It's important to many of you, and we're excited to be a part of it. So with that, that is our prepared remarks for today. We wanted to leave a few minutes for any questions. There may have been some that have come in to Lauren as we've been going here, but any questions, please submit them, and we'll take the time to answer them now.
Chad, I think there were a couple of questions we can answer quickly. Will we be sharing the slides? Yes, we will share the slides and the video here so that you can share it with your colleagues that may not have had a chance to see this. Let me see what the others are. This was
Yes.
answered, but I'm going to, for the benefit of the group, if you haven't seen the chat, has Ecosystem worked on electrification projects both on standalone residential and academic buildings in an urban environment, as well as buildings that are fed by a central energy plant? And the answer there was yes, Ecosystem has broad decarbonization and electrification expertise. They're currently working in New York City multifamily buildings, as well as several college campuses. And they suggest that to learn more, to look at their website at www.ecosystem-energy.com. And then someone asked just a minute ago, will these grants cover the complete cost of the strategic assessment? The answer is yes. There is no cost sharing. They do cover the complete cost. Can we place the link to the application in the chat?
I think Lauren already did.
Lauren already did, so it's there. Good. Without the grant, what is the cost of the assessment? JP, you want to take that one?
Yeah, there is without the grant, there is a correlation. You're right, between the size of the campus and cost of the assessment. We'll be able to communicate that in a future release, I believe.
If you've just entered into an ESCO agreement, are you able to supplement it with additional energy savings? I'm going to let JP take that one also.
Not sure. Thomas, could you clarify that question, please?
If you've just entered into an ESCO agreement, are you able to supplement it with additional energies? It would probably depend on what that agreement was entailed and what the project was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I mean, ESCO agreements, that there's varying scopes of those agreements. And so there may be additional energy savings opportunities, but without kind of the details of the scope, it's hard to answer that one, Thomas.
It goes back to each campus is completely different, and cookie cutter approaches don't work. Everybody's different, and we have to assess each campus on its own.
Yeah. Just maybe real quick back to that last question. JP, could you give some context to kind of an average size campus? So part of what I think is unique about the strategic assessment opportunity is it's not kind of your maybe traditional cookie cutter desktop, kind of assessment. This is, as JP demonstrated with some of the output from it, it's a very thorough review, and there's a lot of value in that. I think the traditional costs for an assessment like this for an average campus, could you maybe just provide some context to that? So there'll be further information about what it'll cost for coalition members, but for ecosystems to perform this independently, could you just maybe give a range or some context to it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, depending on the campus size, but typically that that assessment will be north of $50,000. And of course, through the coalition, we'll be looking at developing a rate structure, again, probably based on campus size. Below 1 million square foot of gross square feet would be a certain cost, and between 1 and 2 million square feet and so on. There would be a rebate rate given for such an assessment, but yeah, generally speaking, that would be more than 50 grand. And
I had to make sure we highlighted that for our marketing department, because it's a significant investment First American's making to support the 5 grants, and again, we're excited to do that. So
we're extremely appreciative for First American doing that. Are there other questions? While we wait, we might want to also speak about the, oh, wait a minute, here's one. Will the cost be waived if the grant is approved? The cost of the strategic assessment? Yes, if you're one of the 5 recipients of the grant, then the strategic assessment cost is waived. Yes, that's the whole purpose of the launch grant. One thing we did not get deeply into, and I'll just mention just at a 30,000 foot level, we intend for this program to be a campus-wide program. As after the strategic assessment, when you get to the number 2 and number 3 stages or phases, we intend for this to involve faculty and staff, the environmental sciences curriculum, the financing curriculum. We'll have experts that can come and speak to your classes if the faculty so desires. We'll be able to do talks and also bring in any sustainability groups on campus, any student sustainability groups. We'll also bring in advancement and admissions. Really, when you're spending money of this magnitude, you really need to make it value proposition on your campus, you need to have, or in our opinion, you need to involve the entire campus. And that's what we fully intend to do.
Lion, if I could add to that, Bill Vinicombe, prospective students, we have found that that's becoming an increasing issue, or an evaluation for prospective students coming, selecting amongst various campuses to attend, that they look at things like this, which reflect a commitment on behalf of the school and the community to sustainability and so forth. So that's a qualitative aspect, but has a huge impact on the attractiveness of the school when prospective students making choices.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. We have another question. Any limit on the size of the grant? No, there is no limit on the size of the launch grant. It will cover whatever is needed for your campus for the strategic assessment. And thank you, Arthur. Says he loves the approach and mirrors what he's been advocating for. Yes.
Good to hear.
It is.
Yeah, we find that this strategic assessment has really makes it's different from maybe a lot of the time campuses could dive into an engineering very detailed study right away without taking the proper time to meet with the stakeholders and having clear goals and having a overview, overall idea of the strategies and what they mean before going too deep down one path. And that's typically what's been the feedback, that it's very helpful to take one extra step to really prepare the foundation and then really inform best, what the more detailed step 2 should be.
Here's the next question coming in. Are infrastructure projects expected to be committed to when participating in the program, or is just the assessment possible without committing to additional capital investment for both the grant and a separate partnership? Obviously, we would like to see you continue on with past the strategic assessment into the next phase and into the implementation phase, but that's not a requirement of the grant. So if you're just looking for a strategic assessment, then it's possible to get it through the grant, or it's possible, if you're not a recipient of the grant, it's possible just to employ, as JP said, we'll negotiate some good rates for just a strategic assessment, and then it's up to you as a campus to do with it what you will. Hopefully you don't set it on the shelf. Hopefully, if you need a strategic assessment, then there's some reason you're asking for it, and you need to implement something.
There was also the question of who's providing the grant, and that the grants are being funded by First American.
Yes, First American Education Finance. And I'll just point out that neither the coalition nor any of our association members, so your state association, we are not involved in reviewing or assessing the grant applications. So we're taking a hands-off approach to make sure that there's no bias in any of the grant decision making. Anybody else have anything that they would like to ask? And I will add, if anything comes up after this, or if you're reviewing the video again, or your colleagues are, and you have questions, please shoot them to us. I think our contact information is on the grant application, or Bill's contact information is on the grant application. So we're more than happy to answer questions and help you all through the process, and hopefully provide some value to your campuses. Is there a list of schools somewhere that were part of the pilot group or that have been partnered with? The pilot group consisted of webinars in the 5 states that were shown on the slide. We have not done any pilots on campuses themselves. Obviously, JP and ecosystems have done numerous strategic assessments before this program was launched. So Allison, thank you very much. Well, seeing no more questions, let me ask Bill, JP, and Chad for final comments. Chad, let you go first.
Yeah, no, I just would thank everyone for joining us today. I think that the one piece that I would advocate is that, there's been a lot of effort put into this over the last, couple of years now. And this group is committed to, having a program that's valuable, to the members. So, there's certainly opportunities for continued involvement and support based on your feedback. So we've welcomed, I think, feedback throughout and would continue to welcome feedback from those that participated on the call today. You have a group here that's going to be very responsive to that feedback.
JP?
Just want to thank everyone for being here today. We, as you probably understood, we strongly believe in a holistic approach, taking the time to deeply understand the goals of our partners, and then work towards great innovative solutions to solve energy and sustainability needs. So looking forward to meeting all of you through the strategic assessment or other parts of the program.
And Bill, I'll let you wrap us up.
Well, thank you very much. It's very easy to move towards what we call tactical implementation. I have a need here in deferred maintenance or specific projects and so forth. And what's been designed, what we've talked about, is the importance of having that information and the involvement of various constituents at a strategic level. So then the tactical part that could come out. And for me personally, the one slide that JP shows, there are different, depending upon what the campus wants to do, there's going to be different programs and different opportunities for impact at different cost structures. And that is so necessary to understand at the outset. But very excited to work on the program and to see this get launched. Thank you, Lion.
Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you to my team members. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And with that, we'll say goodbye and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.